Hi everyone, I'm John Labayan, and I'm here to discuss Chapter 7, which is entitled Industry Archetypes and Best Practices. This is the outline of my presentation. First is that I will be discussing the major industry archetypes. Then I will be discussing the best practices in marketing. And lastly, I will be discussing the local applications of these concepts. Before we discuss each industry archetype, we need to familiarize ourselves with the concept of customer paths. Uh, this shows how customer moves from no awareness of products or services to high awareness, interest, purchase, repurchase, and even word of mouth. It is a journey how customers know and use and even recommend a specific product or service. Second is that it is very complex and diverse. In real life, customer paths are very complex and heterogeneous and involve diverse traditional and digital media combinations. While last, it is market-driven. The market in which the brand plays in influences the complexity of the customer path. Simplifying this diverse customer paths into generic 5A's framework has helped define the archetypes that I will be discussing in this section. So the first major industry archetype or pattern is the doorknob. It is the most common, characterized by high commitment despite low curiosity levels. A well-known industry is the FMCG. Customers in this pattern do not spend time researching and evaluating options. This is because purchases are frequent and habitual and with low price points. This pushes customers to not learn about competitors. Customers already have expectations and preference from their experiences. This industry has large number of brands competing for millions of customers. Also, competing brands spend huge amount of money to sway customers in their direction with appealing marketing communication. Brand wars among major rivals are common in pursuit of higher market share. And a key deciding factor in this pattern is availability at the point of purchase or POP. Even if they are not attracted to the brand, they end up buying because it's the only one available at the point of purchase. There is low customer affinity as evidenced by common brand switching. And for brands, in this pattern, they should improve their affinity levels by building post-purchase engagement program in the hopes of improving customer loyalty. This is the challenge faced by many brands due to overwhelming brand switching. The second pattern or archetype is the goldfish. Its main distinguishing feature is high curiosity levels. Customer path pattern is usually seen in business-to-business markets. Examples include raw materials and other industrial products. Customers typically consider many factors before deciding the brand to choose. They often feel the need to ask questions, consider advice from other sources, as well as have multiple interactions with different brands. The buying process is typically very long and involves numerous stakeholders with different interests. Buyers manage a complex buying organization supported by teams that have strong product knowledge and procurement capability. In many cases, customer intimacy becomes the main deciding factor. Benefit and cost comparisons are also a major step in customer path, reflecting the high degree of ask. Improving this archetype entails the hardest work among all brands because it needs improvement in customer commitment and affinity levels and optimize their curiosity levels. Marketers in B2B sectors face tough challenges because they deal with generally savvy customers. The third archetype or pattern is the trumpet. It's found mostly in lifestyle categories such as luxury cars, watches, and designer handbags. It's distinguished by high affinity levels. People typically are willing to advocate brands even if they do not buy and use it because of the trust in its brand quality. And the number of advocates is higher than the number of actual buyers. Uh, Customers are highly involved in the purchase decisions, and brands in this category have already developed strong reputation of quality, developed over a long period of time through word of mouth. Also, buyers connect through communities, which influences these buyers. Due to very high price points involved, there are fans who cannot afford to buy the brands, but they are more than willing to recommend these brands to others. Most brands in this category are very niched, and since scarcity increases brand appeal for potential buyers, marketers in this category do not really focus on expanding its channel availability. And brands in this pattern may improve commitment level by improving affordability and channel accessibility without diluting the brand's appeal. So the fourth archetype or pattern is the funnel. In this pattern, most purchases are well planned and customers are highly involved in purchase decisions. This is the only pattern in which customers go through each stage of the customer path on the road to purchase and advocacy. They ask questions about the brand and decide based on the feedback. Also, they advocate only if they have experienced the product themselves. This pattern is found mostly in consumer durables as well as service industries. The overall customer experience really matters because customers do not skip any stage, and positioning must be deeply rooted in actual experiences. It is important to manage multiple touch points such as advertising, website and call centers, sales channels, as well as post-purchase services. Brands in this pattern should improve both commitment and affinity levels. This illustrates the significant challenges to balance between sales and after-sales services. And the last pattern that I'll be discussing is the bow tie. It reflects the key traits of a perfect brand. Actually, it's a combination of the strengths of the four major patterns that we have previously discussed. In this category or pattern, everyone who is aware of the brand is willing to recommend the brand because of its stellar reputation. This means that the brand accomplishes a perfect bar score of 1. Also, the brand appeal is so strong that everyone who is attracted to the brand ends up buying it. Lastly, not everyone who is attracted to the brand feels the need to research further, reflecting a clear positioning and the right level of curiosity. So, superimposing this pattern to the four major pattern reveals the gaps and opportunities for improvement, which we already discussed in each pattern. So that ends the discussion in the different patterns. But before we go the before we discuss the different marketing best practices, we need to understand the brand advocacy ratio. So, industry patterns can be derived from BAR. Basically, BAR is just uh, customers' willingness to recommend a brand, and four major industry groupings can be derived from the different BAR median and different BAR ranges. So here are the four major industry groupings, which is service, branding, channel, and sales force management. So the first best practice that I'll be discussing is brand management. This specific group has a high bar median as well as wide bar range. This means that customers are generally willing to recommend several leading brands. Also, in this group, key success factor is developing sound positioning and executing it through marketing communications. So again, FMCG categories epitomizes this group. Marketers may learn best practices of brand management from leading FMCG companies such as Procter& Gamble as well as Unilever. So the next best practice is channel management. So this involves high bar median but narrow bar range. Customers are generally willing to recommend certain brands even though there is no player with a dominating bar score. Also, this group is characterized by either niche local brands or equally strong players in a highly fragmented market. Success usually comes or determined by channel proximity and accessibility to key markets. Key success factors are developing
omni-channel presence, and driving customers to buy. So typical example of this is the retail industry. So the third one is the service management. In this group, uh, there is low bar median as well as high bar range or wide bar range. Customers do not generally recommend brands, although they sometimes advocate leading brands. Customers typically have poor perceptions of most brands in these industries, despite several exceptions. Customer experience is often polarizing with equal numbers of happy and frustrated customers. Leading brands often show their service excellence and customer intimacy over other brands. And lastly is sales management. This group has low bar median as well as narrow bar range. This means that competition is tight and customers are generally unwilling to recommend competing brands. Since there is almost no effect of word of mouth, competing brands have to work hard to push their product and service to the market. Key success factor is sales force management, managing productive salespeople and driving the right sales activities. And with that, we end best practices. And the last part in this presentation is about the local application of each archetype and best practice. I will be using the perspective related to my passion, which is sports. So, the doorknob pattern is more prevalent in FMCGs, and one consumer packaged good in sports I can think of is sports drinks or hydrating drinks such as Gatorade and Powerade. Uh, and there is a new product still increasing its presence, which is Body Armor, which is owned by Kobe Bryant. So, main factor in deciding is availability in point of purchase. So, whenever I buy this product, I just buy whatever is available. I don't spend time researching the difference between the three products since I consume it right away and buy it frequently naman. Also, there's no source of regret about buying the other product since price point is very low. The next pattern is goldfish. All I can think of is in relation to sports is the way raw materials are sourced by sports product manufacturers like Nike and Adidas. They look for best possible materials from different suppliers, different prices, and different specs. The choice of suppliers will be based on the company's policy, and this process is mainly uh, business to business in nature. For the trumpet pattern, the most classic example would be footwear produced by luxury brands or in collaboration with luxury brands. These sneakers are priced higher than the ones available in retail shops with a lower number of production. Also, this will push demand higher actually. Also, in terms of availability, since it will be a limited run, it will be available on very few channels, either through the brand's apps or raffles through online or in-store raffles. Because of this, prices in the secondary market skyrockets to at least 100 times or even 1,000 times. But the best example I can think of is any brand that collaborates with this brand, Supreme. This brand is a streetwear brand that usually has a limited run on its collaborations with different brands. For the funnel pattern, one of the examples I can see is the choice of consumer durables, specifically sports equipment. So there are different basketball brands, and these three brands are the most known. Each has its own strengths and weaknesses. And those who advocate the brands are those who own and have used the brands itself. Buyers go through each stage of the customer path in finding which brand to buy. And Spalding is known as the official game ball of the NBA, while Wilson will be the next official game ball in 2021,
while Molten is known as the official game ball for FIBA events. A great brand management example would be these three brands, Nike, Under Armour, and the NBA. Nike started as a distributor of Onitsuka sneakers in the US and is now known as the number one sports apparel maker in the world. While Under Armour started as a compression shirt maker and is now one of the most famous sports brand in the world. While NBA has grown into the second most popular US sports league with annual revenue of more than 8 billion.
In terms of channel management, the best example is NBA as well. Uh, in relation to NBA being a good brand, they have increased the league's popularity as well as its reach by increased presence and availability through different channels. Initially, they're just available via free TV, but the league has made it to a point to increase its availability through different channels. This includes free TV, cable TV, applications, as well as an on-demand service that you can access on any mobile devices.
In terms of service management for the business of sports, best example would be skills development service. Not only for players but also for coaches and managers. This is where NBA Junior comes in. They have skills development for both coaches and managers, aside from player development for kids. One of the pioneers in this service is Milo Best Center, which was started in 1978, while Titan Basketball Academy is a fairly new player uh, established recently. In the sports industry, there are only two sales functions, ticket sales and sponsorships. And the example I'm using is sales in terms of sponsorships. So these three examples are the most notable sponsorship deals with sports leagues in the US. Nike's official outfitter deal with both NBA, NFL, and Gatorade's naming rights deal with the NBA Development League, which was later renamed to NBA G League because this is the first title sponsorship deal of a US sports pro league. While both deals of Nike with NBA and NFL are both billion-dollar deals.
Summary, each major pattern has its distinct characteristics and has its own matching best practice to improve the brand's chances. Second, customer experience plays a major role across archetypes. Each brand should think of this in hopes of growing their brand or improving the performance of their brand. Lastly, there are two game changers, which are innovation and technology. As been discussed, uh, it blurs the distinction between the different industries or different archetypes.
And that ends my presentation. Thank you for watching.